warm welcome to Disky Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things DSTV Premiership action between Kaizer Chiefs versus Stellenbosch, as I do a post-match tactical analysis of how that game played out. So, Stellenbosch did pick up 3 points and they did win the game 1-0, courtesy of a beautiful goal from Ashley Preez. However, let's then get into the tactical post-match analysis and let's see how that game played out. So coming into this game then, both teams had come off the back of 3 points respectively, with Stellenbosch having won 1-0 against Marumo Gallants at home and Kaizer Chiefs having beaten Supersport United away 2-1. Coming up into this game then, this is a game that Kaizer Chiefs would have loved to win and pick up that momentum because they had picked up back-to-back wins. So they would have loved to win this game and then progress further up the table. However, when we have a look at the personnel and who Stuart Baxter went with within this game, in goals, he started with Daniel Akpe, and I think on the day, Daniel Akpe had a good game. There were some important saves that he made, and yeah, I can't really fault him for that beautiful goal from Preez because I just think it was a world-class goal, which was curled right into the top corner. So yeah, I can't really fault him for that. Having a look at the back four, as Stuart Baxter went with the 4-3-3. At left back, they went with Hlanti, 2 centre-backs, Cardoso as the left-sided centre-back, and Matoho, and then at right back, Jabulo Blom. So when we have a look then at the back four, I was quite disappointed that Cardoso was brought back into the starting lineup by virtue of the fact that whenever he's played with Matoho, he's struggled a lot throughout the season. And throughout the game, then he was to show why then they struggle when they play as a pair, especially considering the fact that Dube had been doing very well within this position. And I just don't understand then why Dube didn't play this game. He was available, he was on the bench, and Dube was a player who was then building with momentum and building in consistency with regards to his performance at the heart of defense. And he was a player then who was also then able to cover Matoho very well. Dube was dealing very well with the one-on-ones. He was dealing very well with those balls played in behind. The crosses, he could read the crosses very well. However, with Cardoso and Matoho, they've always struggled with those balls, even just a simple vertical ball in between them that's played from vertical zone 3 from the center of the pitch. They'd always struggle with that ball. And in this game, it proved to be that. Every time Chiefs were higher up the pitch, and Stellenbosch were looking to play from the back, Chiefs wouldn't press the man on the ball. Stellenbosch would play that ball in behind, and Preez would always get in behind. He was troubling Kaizer Chiefs so many times, and he really troubled Cardoso and Matoho. However, when you look at the goal then, it is Mendieta who plays that ball through vertical zone 3. Preez gets it. Cardoso's on him. Preez turns Cardoso. Cardoso doesn't get tight enough, and Preez hits it into the top corner. And I just think this two, they really, really struggle playing together at the heart of defense. I don't understand why Stuart Baxter goes back to them, especially considering that Chiefs were becoming defensively strong and Dube was at the heart of defense with Matoho, starting to institute a very strong partnership. I just don't understand why he went with the pair of them, as I think they had a very bad game and they just struggled throughout the afternoon with Preez's speed. And then at right back, Blom, I think defensively, Blom had a good game. The only problem then was whenever he did overlap and find himself in advanced pockets of spaces, he couldn't deliver those crosses into the box. Very disappointed then with his final ball, because this is a player who's been doing well with regards to playing within vertical zone 1, within vertical zone 5, advancing further up the pitch and delivering those crosses. But today, he just couldn't deliver quality balls into the box, and he really let Chiefs down in the final third. And yeah, just disappointed with his performance. And I think the back four, there's nobody who really stood out, in my opinion, as, they just didn't impress me on the day, if I have to be honest. Moving on then into midfield, I don't understand then why Stuart Baxter would then start with such a defensive-minded midfield three. I mean, you've got Nobo, you've got Cole, and you've got Nange. At least sacrifice Cole, start with the Nobo, as he is a player who's well adept at playing in between the lines and further up the pitch. Very good then at occupying those half spaces. When he came on, you saw a bit of that he did give a bit of that urgency. He was popping up into those half spaces. He was looking for that progressive ball in 1-2. Then very disappointed then with the midfield going forward. I just feel like they didn't give us much from a penetrative and progressive perspective. A player then in midfield who I would then say had a good game, I would say it was Nobo, because he did very well whenever he was meant to institute breaking down opposition attacks. He was able to read the game well. He was able to make those tackles, and he's starting to get comfortable within the heart of midfield. It's just that at times you can still see that he is a defender by trade, and his best position is centre-back as opposed to playing in the heart of midfield. Moving on then, right along to the front three. Yeah, when it comes to the front three then, I must say very disappointed, because I just think on the day they just couldn't convert the chances, especially when you look at Parker, where he had chances in the beginning of the game. You have a look at Biliat as well. He wasn't really penetrative on the day, and he really, really struggled. And also then, when you look at a chance which was instituted from a very good free kick from Kama Biliat at the back post, I think Cardoso should finish there within the first half, but he doesn't. And Kaizer Chiefs just couldn't finish off those chances. However, when you look at Keegan Dolly then, who's the player who's so influential, I just think, he really struggled on the day. And I think credit goes to then the Stellenbosch side with regards to how they nullified Keegan Dolly when he came up into that half space. And I just think he really struggled. And then when we have a look at Stellenbosch and how they went about their business of ensuring that Kaizer Chiefs don't score on the day and how they kept their clean sheet. Well, when we have a look at Stellenbosch then, coming into this game, they went with a 3-4-3 system, which then would be a 3-5-2 at different phases of the game. And then whenever they had to defend deep and institute a low block, it would then go to a back five. But how do they do it? So in goals then, they started with Sage Steffens, who at times made good saves. And then having a look at the back three then, they started with Robertson as the right side at centre half. In between the three, they started with Kwinaka, who is formerly Zita Macheke, and then at left centre back, they did start with Umtetwa. And when you have a look at this back three, then I think they had a very, very good game by virtue of the fact that they were able then to nullify this Kaizer Chiefs side, especially when Keegan Dolly popped up into that half space. What they did very well is that they were very compact. And with them being very compact then, whenever Keegan Dolly looked to play that pass in behind, Kwinaka would always make sure that he tracked the runner. So whenever that ball would then be played in behind by Dolly, Kwinaka was always able to track the runner. So he then offered that extra layer of defense, and that's the fortitude and privilege that comes with playing with a back three, because then you've got an extra centre back who can offer you that extra defender, whenever then it's time to institute defensive action, especially when you come up against clever players who know how to manipulate the ball in the half space, who know how to play those balls in behind. I think Kwinaka had an absolutely phenomenal display on the day from a defensive perspective. And Stellenbosch, I must say that they stuck to their game plan and they did very, very well from a defensive perspective. As the right wing back, they went with Van Rooyen. As the left wing back, they went with Van Heerden. and then the two in the heart of midfield, they went with Sinkala and Adams, and then it was Mendieta. You had Dupree, and then you had Dingba. But the interesting thing then to note about this front three is that it was a very free-flowing, fluid front three. So at times they would be rotating, and a different player would take up that false nine position. However, in most cases it was Dupree. Whenever then Kaizer Chiefs did look to keep possession in their half. And what Dupree did very well then is that he was always able then to occupy this back two. And as a result of that, that's how the goal came. It was Mendieta dropping deep into central zone 3, where he collects the ball. Nange presses him. He gets past Nange. He plays a beautiful pass, a beautiful vertical pass down vertical zone 3. And Dupree gets it. When Dupree gets it, he turns Cardoso. And then Cardoso doesn't get close enough, and then he whips one into the top corner. And that's how then Stellenbosch were able then to institute a victory against Kaizer Chiefs and a clean sheet. And I must say then, my hat goes off to Dupree for the great performance that he had today. He could have had a brace, and one can even argue that he could have had a hat-trick on the day. I think he's really growing in leaps and bounds, and I think he's going to become a very, very good player. By virtue of the fact that he's very quick, he's got an eye for goal, and his technical ability is also something that goes unnoticed. He's got a very, very good technique when it comes to striking the ball from set pieces and from open play whenever he has to take those shots at goal. And another thing then to mention about Dupree is that if he just works on his finishing and decision-making within the final third, I think he can become a very, very lethal forward line player for the Stellenbosch side, and one day then look to break into Bafana Bafana. So at the end of the day then, it is Stellenbosch 1, Kaizer Chiefs 0. Very, very disappointing performance by Kaizer Chiefs. On the day, they just couldn't convert those chances. At times, they just couldn't penetrate that low block which was instituted by Stellenbosch. And well done to Stellenbosch for the victory on the day. They stuck to their game plan. They were able to nullify the two pockets of spaces, being the half spaces. Most importantly, they were able then to nullify Keegan Dolly. He couldn't then operate within that half space, like I had mentioned in the pre-match analysis, where Dolly does so very well. They were able then to either get close to him or go with the runner. And once Stellenbosch started instituting that defensive action against Keegan Dolly consistently, he just couldn't find that penetrative pass, and he couldn't cut in and look to get a goal himself. So at the end of the day, it is DSTV Premiership action, which was played at the F&B Stadium between Kaizer Chiefs and Stellenbosch. So Stellenbosch then pick up 3 points, and they go level on 19 points with Mamelodi Sundowns. It is then Kaizer Chiefs 0, Stellenbosch 1. It is DSTV Premiership action. Thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Diski Talk with Luyolo. Signing out.